Hey everybody, it's Dr. Eric Nepute. I hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to PEPTalk, where we give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, pep you up, give you some tidbits on biohacking and how to take your health and your wealth to the next level and how you can protect yourself against all kinds of craziness that's happening in the world today. Today, on our segment on what the health is going on, you guys know what we do is we take what's going on in the news. People send me things all the time. I'm constantly looking at it and I say, all right, what the health is going on, right? What's going on in the news today that you need to be aware about so that you can help yourself, protect yourself, and stay ahead of the curve, okay? So I know that many of you, because I know you've been writing me, emailing me, going to our website, asking questions, which is amazing. But look, here's the deal. I know a lot of you are concerned because just recently, and I've got the report right here, we're going to talk through this. Just recently, the United States government just awarded a pharmaceutical company a $176 million contract to develop a new type of injection against a influenza type pandemic, which is known as avian flu, bird flu. And I know it's hot in the news. People are asking me to talk about it all the time. I'm going on all kinds of news podcasts and news promotions to talk about this. So I want to break it down for you. I want you to understand what's really going on, because if we can help you destroy the spirit of fear and do some things now to improve your health, improve your cellular function, and help you really understand how to navigate what's coming. Look, folks, every year we have flu season. Every single year. Every year, it's reported that 40 million Americans are infected with the flu. And a small percentage of those folks that are elderly, typically, or immunocompromised, they die. It's called the winter burden. And it happens all the time. But now we're hearing reports that this next winter is going to be an excess winter burden. Why is that? Well, I will tell you that the last 4 years, we've seen a massive increase in autoimmune issues and compromised immune systems. More in the last 4 years than I've seen, by the way, combined in the last 20 years of my medical practice. Why is that? And what should you be aware of? And what's going on and what the health is going on with this whole thing with the $176 million for this new injection, this V word that we can't say, because if you say that word, you get censored, you get shut down. They propagandize you, but it's an injection that's supposed to inoculate you and prevent these things from happening. So let's talk about this. Here's the current risk assessment. I need you to be aware of the facts. Did you know that the very first case of bird flu in the United States of America happened in 2022? Let me say that again. The very first case of bird flu that was reported in the United States of America happened in the year 2022. Nobody in the United States of America has died from bird flu. Zero. Zilch, nada. And if you round that up, it's still zero, just so you know. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. And the infection typically happens in workers who are working in either poultry farms or around animals or things of that nature. They're working in the fecal matter and in the waste of these animals. Because, by the way, what a virus is an exosome. It's an excretion of something. A virus is not a living thing. It's not like a bug or a bacteria. Bug and bacteria, it's a living thing. It's a cell that divides and it feeds off of things and etc. A virus is different. A virus is an exosome. It really is an excretion of a cell's function. We'll get into that on a different conversation sometime. But I want you to know that BIRDA, which is a department of the division of the Department of Defense, the biological division that their job is to acquire for the military and other organizations. They acquire medicines, they acquire vaccines. That's just what they do, okay? Well, they were the ones that funded this project. And this vaccine was awarded to a company who 4 years ago wasn't even in existence. I mean, they were in existence, but they were worth about $100,000. This company now, fast forward to 2024, is worth about $120 billion. And it's a vaccine manufacturer. It's called Moderna. By the way, for all you fact checkers out there, that's just a fact that you can check that out. And what's interesting is the phase 3 trial of this is going to start in 2025 if the candidates deem it safe and effective. Now, let me explain something about safe and effective. You've heard that term a lot over the last 4 or 5 years. Did you know that the very first study that was done on the treatments that were there to prevent the last pandemic, they were released in a journal called the New England Journal of Medicine. And what the New England Journal of Medicine released was a study that was done by one of these pharmaceutical injection makers that talks about the safety and efficacy of an injection, of a vaccine. And normally the gold standard of if something is safe and effective, what they do is they use something called absolute risk reduction, which means they look at, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, and they find out if you get this treatment, what is the absolute risk reduction of you getting infected, you getting sick, and you dying? The absolute risk reduction. Well, they didn't do that in 2020. It's the first time ever that didn't happen. What they did was they looked at something called the relative risk reduction, which is interesting because it's relative to what? It's relative to your age, the medications you're on, your height, your weight, the demographics that the color of your skin. I mean, there's so many things that play a role in that. And they told us that the safety and efficacy profile was 98% effective. 95% effective. And that was relative risk effectiveness. When you go through and you read the paper and look at the absolute risk reduction, it was less than 1%. So I need you to understand that when you, as a doctor, I have to give you, when you come into my practice, I have to give you something called informed consent. Informed consent means I tell you what we're going to do. Here's the benefits. Here's the risk. Do you agree or not? Let's talk about it. But I need to inform you of your risk. Does that make sense? That's common sense. And by the way, that's a law for doctors to do. Unless for some reason there's a pandemic and they don't have to do that anymore, which is also very weird. But I'm trying to educate you on what happened in the past so that you can understand what's happening currently. So the studies that are going to be done on this are going to be relative risk reduction studies. So please read the fine print before you sign off on getting this for you, your family, your children, or whatever. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm saying that you should get informed. And I think it's really interesting if you think about this. The very first case of avian flu in the United States of America was in 2022. Think about that for a minute. And no one has died in America from this. Again, a very interesting thing. I thought it was also very interesting that there's, potential global negative consequences of what's happening right now. There's a lot of public panic and misinformation that's going around. And that word misinformation and disinformation, I didn't even know those were words until like mid-2020 when they made those words up, by the way, and started telling us what they were. But as we saw during the last pandemic, the announcement of a new outbreak and a new treatment for that outbreak really led the public into panic and massive spread of mis and disinformation on both sides of that conversation. There were a lot of people that really believed that the medical world had a solution, and those medical people believed it as well. But now we know 4 years later, that's not the case. And there were a lot of people on the other side saying, don't do this, don't do that, take vitamins, minerals, nutrients, get healthy, etc. Those folks were more right, but a lot of those folks got it wrong as well. The problem is what we should have been doing is communicating with each other instead of fighting against each other. I think that's very important. What needs to happen is doctors and healthcare specialists of all backgrounds need to get together and talk to each other about what's working. By the way, that was actually happening in 2020. I was one of the doctors on a global doctors alliance program helping people understand globally. It was myself and representatives from about 70 other countries that would get on a Zoom 2 or 3 times a week to talk about what we're seeing in our communities and what can be done to help folks. That's what needs to be happening still to this day. That's true healthcare, not compartmentalized healthcare, and not causing fear to where they shut people up and censor them because they're saying words that somebody doesn't agree with, that controls the microphone. There was a massive amount of economic disruption that happened during the last pandemic. And if we're gearing up for another one called avian flu or bird flu, there could be a global overreaction this time, just like there was last time. And I don't know if this resonates with you, but my mother, God rest her soul, used to always tell me, maybe you should learn from your past mistakes so you don't repeat them again. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is to give you some insight on what's going on. This also can lead to something called vaccine hesitancy. Now, listen, I'm not for or against you going and getting a vaccine. I don't care what you do. I think you should do what's best for you and your family, but you need to have an informed consent of what that is. I mean, wouldn't you agree? Isn't that a very common sense statement to say? Like, it really doesn't affect me what you do for your health, because if you're going to get a shot, it protects you, not protects me. Oh, wait, they changed that, didn't they? We'll talk about that on a different program. But what about ethical and safety concerns? We have, as a global scientific community, we have some ethical concerns about this, because we know once we start doing studies that are called gain of function and other things that are out there for viruses, that can cause more of a spread of that virus. And we also now know, which by the way was true before, and for whatever reason in 2020 to 2024, science kind of threw this chapter out of the book. But if you start injecting people with a vaccine during an outbreak, it causes an increased spread of that virus. That could happen if we're not careful. And then there's a lot of resource allocation that we need to be aware of. There's a overreaction of low risk solutions that are out there that they try to pull off the shelves. You guys remember, well, I don't want to get too deep into the politics of this, but there were a lot of crazy things that happened during the last pandemic. Doctors like myself, you guys know my story. I had over 11,000 patients that were positive with COVID in our clinics across the country, and nobody died. Instead of the government asking us what we did to help people, they sued us for $508 billion. And by the way, think about this for a minute. $508 billion. When Germany lost World War II, the Nazis lost, and all that crazy stuff was ended. After the Nuremberg trial, the Nuremberg Code was set up, and Germany had to pay restitutions to the world. And in today's money, they would have had to pay globally back $7.8 billion. They killed 6 million people that we know of. And they sued me for $508 billion. Just think about that for a minute. What the health is going on, right? There's a lot of over-reliance on the pharmaceutical solutions for avian flu, when avian flu really is nothing more than a certain type of virus that responds well, and I'm going to show you in a moment, that responds well to a lot of natural therapeutics that you can prevent yourself from getting infections with. By the way, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients don't cure or treat or prevent diseases. We now know that vaccines don't cure, prevent, or treat diseases. You know that, right? Vaccination doesn't mean immunization. But we know that the healthier an individual is, the less the chances they have of developing an infection in the first place. And for that infection to spread and for them to get sick and, God forbid, go to the hospital or, God forbid, die from lack of treatment. So there's a lot of interesting things that are happening with this avian flu. And I'm hearing from my colleagues all the time some of the major concerns that they have. And I want to share some of this with you right now. So I want you to understand a little bit about what bird flu is, avian flu. So it's a virus, and there's a couple of them. There's H5N1, and then there's H7N9. The H5N1 is the most common strand that we know of that can affect humans, and the H7N9 is a little bit more complex and potentially a little bit more dangerous. Transmission of this is spread and infection from birds to humans through direct contact with their fecal matter or with the living animals. You're not going to sneeze on someone and spread this. At least that's not the way this thing spreads. At least as of right now, it doesn't. But there's a global susceptibility in people who work closely to the poultry world, which if you remember, even during the last pandemic, a lot of folks that worked in certain poultry farms across the country had a higher risk of these infections that happen because those are unsanitary in most cases environments to live and work in, and those toxins actually negatively impact the liver, the heart, the lungs, and the body. The areas that are at the highest risk are certain areas of Asia due to obviously the widespread presence of, birds in their population, flu in their population. And in some recent years, South America, some areas of Europe, and some areas of Africa, we're seeing a spread. The H5N1 and H7N9, some strains have a pretty high fatality rate. According to the World Health Organization, some of them have up to 50% fatality rate. But interestingly enough, if you have the right type of therapeutics or if you're healthy, it doesn't seem to be a problem whatsoever. So let's talk about preventative measures, okay? Now, avoid contacts with birds, could be one, obviously, okay? Food safety. Make sure you're cooking your poultry, your eggs, your chicken, all that kind of stuff so that it's not raw. Consuming uncooked eggs and poultry could be a potential cause for an outbreak. Potential. And then what are protective measures? Wearing a mask, wearing gloves, not at the grocery store, not at work, but if you're going to be around the chickens, that's when you should do it. We know that wearing masks and gloves and things of that nature don't stop the spread of viruses the way that we were once trained. By the way, before 2020, doctors knew that because there were flus before that. It's crazy how things repeat themselves. But I think it's important that human cases and deaths since 2003, let me say this again. Since 2003, there's about 862 global deaths of H1N1 and about 1,500 global deaths of H7N9, which have been reported since 2013. And I think it's interesting to understand that in the United States alone, 17,000 people a year die from Tylenol. Let me say that again. 862 people have died from H5N1 and 1,500 have died from H7N9 since 2013, in a 10-year span, from 2003 to 2013. And annually, 17,000 people die a year from Tylenol. And you hear people say all the time, it's safe as a Tylenol. So I'm just trying to bring some things into perspective for you. Bird flu in mammals, we're seeing an increase in this because, again, of the increase of the animals that are out there. But we have studies that are ongoing right now that are talking about these flus and things that can be done on a global level to help people and what can be done on an economic impact and et cetera. But here are some natural solutions. Get a pen, write this down. Here are some natural things that can be done to improve upon the health of your body, to improve the cells of your health, which can improve the systems of your body, which one of the systems is the immune system. But you need to improve overall health. You're not just going to boost the immune system by itself. You need to get healthier as a whole. And we're going to talk about it on subsequent podcasts with us. Trust me, I promise, especially on the Ask Dr. Eric aspects. I'm going to answer all your questions. But write this down. Here are some things that are scientifically proven in the medical journals to help people with avian flu, because avian flu is influenza A and influenza B. Elderberry. Elderberry extract is believed to block certain types of glycoproteins. The glycoprotein is the little sticky thing that attaches to the ACE2 receptor in your cell that allows the viruses to get into your cells in the first place. Elderberry. By the way, I use elderberry on a regular basis, but if you're going to use elderberry, it's best to have local organic elderberry. That way it has the local flora and fauna in it, which, by the way, elderberry is great for the immune system, and it's also really good to lower seasonal allergies. But apparently, according to the medical research, studies have shown that elderberry is safe, and it's a safe option for people to take to help with influenza A and influenza B, which is what avian flu is. Zinc. Oh goodness, here it is, zinc. Zinc is known to improve immune system function. It's an immune system modulator. It also helps with the cytokine storms, which is the over-inflammatory aspect of an immune system response to an infection. So zinc is amazing. And I like zinc. I like chelated zinc or zinc glycinate, whichever one you can get, either chelated zinc or zinc glycinate. Those are the two that your body can absorb the best. And typically we recommend about 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams a day. If that zinc upsets your stomach, it's the wrong kind of zinc to take. Number 3, green tea and green tea extract. The EGCG that's in the green tea extract is a component of that actually has an antiviral property, especially protects against influenza A and influenza B. Regular consumption of these green teas can improve immune system function and potentially reduce the risk of somebody having these types of problems. Here's another big one, probiotics. You guys hear me talk about the importance of a healthy gut and healthy gut bacteria all the time. But what I'm going to tell you is if you don't have a healthy gut, you don't have a healthy immune system. It's been reported that 90+% of your immune system lives inside of your GI tract in your small intestine. And there are certain types of probiotics, bacteria that's important. So eating fermented foods, having things like kombucha, kimchi, a good probiotic. And by the way, I'm going to tell you that 90+% of probiotics on the market don't work. They don't do any good for you. You have to find master microbes. You have to be able to know that a capsule that you're going to take can get past the stomach acids and implant into the GI tract so that those bacteria can grow and populate so that your body can, have an immune system. So probiotics are important. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, vitamin D. Did you know that vitamin D by itself is not even a vitamin? It's actually a prohormone. Vitamin D is made of cholesterol. Vitamin D, yes, comes from your body, photosynthesis through the sun, but you have to have the right amount of cholesterol. You have to have all these other things working proper in the body, and most people don't, so they don't have enough vitamin D. We recommend people get a blood test at least twice a year for vitamin D, and on a blood test, your vitamin D level from a 0 to 100 should be between 60 and 100. There's data that shows if vitamin D levels are above a 60, it reduces the risk of infections of all things. Every single infection known to man can be reduced substantially if your vitamin D levels are up. That's what the medical research shows. Vitamin D, by the way, plays an adequate, huge, robust part in the immune system, especially in the modulation of the immune system. That's the turning it up and turning it down like a thermostat whenever it's needed. If you don't have enough vitamin D in your body, you can't make antibodies. So whether you get infected with something or you get injected with something, the whole idea of that is to make an antibody. The antibody is a flag that goes and flags that, hey, there's a problem, immune system, go and fight it. If you don't have enough vitamin D, that cannot happen. So that's important. There are some other natural modalities that are out there, like herbal medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine and other Ayurvedic herbs have been extremely beneficial against influenza symptoms. What about things like echinacea and licorice root? These are common known immune system boosting things to take during common cold season. By the way, the common cold is a flu virus. Let me say that again. The cold is a flu virus, and it happens to be a coronavirus. Okay? There are lots of coronaviruses. What about phytochemicals? Phytochemicals are derived from natural things like flavonoids and alkaloids and terpenes. There are so many things that are out there that are very, very researched and very, very safe and effective that can help you mitigate and deal with some type of infections in your body. There's all kinds of cool stuff. The bottom line is this. There's a whole lot to do about, I don't want to say nothing because it's important to know what's happening. It's important to know, but I always say, what the health is going on? I see this and I see this fear pornography that's coming at people and it's unnecessary. So what do we need? What do you need? You need to get yourself healthy. We need more people less sick. We need people to plug in on a cellular, a genetic, a neurological, and a bacterial standpoint. If you know what your body's cells are functioning at, the quality of your health is direct proportion to the quality of health of your cells. Healthy cells equals a healthy organ. Healthy organs equal a healthy system, healthy immune system. So find out where your health is. So overview of the bird flu. It's coming. Be ready. You're going to hear a lot about it starting in probably October, November, that area. You're going to hear a lot about it. Start getting yourself healthy now. Start using some of those natural remedies that are out there that I just talked to you about. Get yourself healthy. If you're overweight, let's lose some weight. If you're eating too much sugar, let's minimize the sugar. If you're not eating a good, healthy, plant-based diet with clean, healthy proteins and et cetera, and getting good hydration and getting your minerals and vitamins in, you're not going to be healthy and you're at a higher risk of infection. So understand again that yes, transmission of bird flu is real. Yes, it's a problem. Yes, there are solutions. Yes, there are natural things that can be done. And if you will understand those natural things, the first thing it can do is it can lower your stress. And by the way, stress and fear, which false evidence appearing real, that's what fear is. When you have those things, your immune system weakens. And then we live in fear, and now we have a weakened immune system. You literally can worry yourself sick about things. And we've seen that over the last couple of years more than we've ever have. So understand that knowledge is power, but it's really the wisdom. Wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying it to your life. So avian flu is coming. There's a lot of things that you can do to help yourself. Don't freak out. Don't get scared. Knowledge. Get the knowledge that you should have had in 2020. Now you have the opportunity and the ability, and I'm going to tell you, you have the responsibility to have that. Because the new healthcare really is self-care. If you haven't learned anything over the last 4 years or so, that it needs to be up to you. You need to be your own health advocate. You need to plug into podcasts like this and other platforms where you can learn and ask questions, and go to our website, go to our site and go to the Ask Dr. Eric aspect. Any question you have, go there and ask those. And we do segments, Ask Dr. Eric, and we'll go over all those questions that you ask, and I'll answer those live for you. Because the truth will set you free if you'll let it. Folks, I got to go. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Eric Nepute. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. Stay safe out there, stay smart out there, and I'll see you again soon. Be well. Bye.